This is my show, Everybody's Live, or as it will be known at my conservatorship hearing, Exhibit B. You know what I realize this show is like? You know when you watch a movie and there's a talk show in the movie and it looks and it sounds kind of real, but like something's just off? That's what this show feels like. This kind of feels like the talk show that Joaquin Phoenix goes on in The Joker. And we hope it doesn't end the same. Even the title, Everybody's Live, it's not quite right, is it? Like it's English, it's just not American. Like it sounds like Saturday Night Live was translated into Italian and then translated back to English. Everybody's Live, that's what this show is. That's what this is. This is like a European parody of American entertainment. We've landed on it. Hey, speaking of shows that don't make sense, what a weekend I had. My 3-year-old son had his first show ever because his school had their annual spring concert Friday night. This was very exciting. What a show it was. It was cool. It was a really cool show. Show, sorry, is a strong word because shows normally progress towards some big moment. This was like all opening acts. It was all Plastic Cup Boys, no Kevin Hart. The show began at 5:30 p.m., or as we call it in showbiz, magic time. And the show starts, the principal comes out first, and I like this. She told us how excited the kids were for this and how hard they had worked on it. You know, so that we wouldn't boo them. But this announcement was a revelation to me. I was like, I didn't know we could do that before shows. I want someone to come out here right before the theme music plays and be like, John worked really hard on this and he's really excited, so be nice. First act in the spring show, pre-K, and they sang Wouldn't It Be Nice by the Beach Boys. And I'm sitting there side stage bopping along while they nail every fourth word. And this little girl in the front row singing, she's got on a Hawaiian shirt and sunglasses, and she's kind of starting to lose it. And when they finish great, and everyone claps, and she just starts sobbing. It was the applause that pushed her over the edge. The success of the Beach Boys destroyed her emotionally, like a little Brian Wilson. Isn't it, by the way, just amazing how defanged pop culture can become over the years? Like, the Beach Boys took piles of acid to write Pet Sounds, and now 4-year-olds in Orange County are singing it. I hope by 2040 that kindergartners are performing my story about selling a Rolex to buy cocaine. And they're like, you know, this was once considered dark. So I was standing side stage with my son. He's 3. I don't even know what grade he's in. Like pre or something? I think they call it Panda Bear. His class was gonna go out. They were gonna perform We Got the Beat by the Go-Go's. So the school gave them a headband and it gave them a t-shirt that said 80s. And all we had to do was make sure that our kids wore light jeans. Malcolm brought home a piece of paper saying, make sure your kids are wearing light jeans because it's a 1980s theme. So Friday afternoon, before we leave for the show, my son and I get into a knockdown, drag-out fight where we are both screaming the words light jeans back and forth. I'm like, you can put your sandals on in the car, you don't have to wear a t-shirt, you just have to put on light jeans. He's like, Dad, I don't want to wear the light jeans. I was like, listen, they have a much more comfortable fit than darker wash jeans. It's gonna be fine. I made an agreement with him. I said, all right, I said if I showed him YouTube videos of flat tires, he's really into flat tires right now. I mean, they are a funny situation. If I showed him YouTube videos of flat tires, he would put on the light jeans. But this all went south. So if you were a neighbor of mine last Friday at 5:15 p.m., you would have seen me running out of the house in a jacket and tie, holding a tiny pair of light jeans, chasing after a 3-year-old boy only in his underwear, screaming, "We had a deal!" I yell at my kids sometimes like I'm Dennis Hopper and he's Keanu in the movie Speed. I'm always like, that's not one of the options, hotshot. So we're standing side stage there. They're about to go out and do We Got the Beat. And he grabs my arm. He says, I don't want to go out there. I'm afraid. And I said, listen, that's how Daddy feels before every single show. But if you go out there and you really crush it, when it's done, you won't be afraid anymore. You'll be happy for like 1 minute. And then you'll feel numb. And then you'll remember you have to do it again. And you'll be so afraid again. Sometimes the better it goes, the more afraid you'll be. You'll be like, yeah, we got away with it this time, but next year I got to sing My Sharona with an inflatable guitar. So I look at the whole concert and I look at all the kids and I bend down and I say to my son, hey, this doesn't matter at all. Nothing matters. So if you'd like to sit in my lap and watch the show, that'd be fun. And he said, yeah, I want that. His teacher came over and goes, Malcolm, are you sure? Your class worked very hard. Everyone's excited to hear the song. I said, oh, excuse me, Miss Inez. You have no idea how much you can disappoint an audience and still bounce back in this business. You know, it's hard to get toddlers to perform together. They're all divas of their own kind. It's hard to get them in a group, because every toddler at heart is the star of their own show. Do you know what having a 3-year-old is like? Having a 3-year-old, it's what I imagine working on Ellen's show was like. Because people come over, and they're like, how is it? And you're like, oh, it's fun, we have fun. There's games. But some days are hard. But it's fun, We have dancing, So if he starts dancing, you dance. But if he stops dancing, you fucking stop dancing right away. Our topic tonight, as I mentioned before, is height. Height's very important. I wish it wasn't, but it is. When we talk about Napoleon, we always talk about his height. If he came back in a time machine, he'd be like, do people still speak of my accomplishments? I led all of France. I created the Napoleonic Code. I conquered the Western world. And we'd be like, oh, yeah, you're that short guy who was mad that he was short. So he had an army or something. And he'd be like, I wasn't even that short. There were other guys shorter than me. You know that I fuck with a lot of Vietnamese in-laws, right? So my wife's uncle, Vinh Nguyen, from Saigon, passed away a couple years ago. For Uncle Vin's entire adult life, he told people he was 6 feet tall. He was 5 feet tall. I'm 6 feet tall, and he would look up at me and go, I am also 6 feet tall. It was such a big lie, we just never called him on it. So anyway, a couple years ago, very sad, Vinh passed away. Before he died, he had bought his grave plot and his casket. Vinh bought a casket for a 6-foot man. And it was an open casket. So the first flap is open, and you know how it's supposed to go to the waist? You could see down, close to the knee, he was hiding in one, a magician was sawing the end of it, and he had to So the funeral's in Oklahoma City, and Olivia's cousins and her brother and brother-in-law, they're carrying the casket with Uncle Vinh over to the grave plot. And from the hearse to the grave, there is a slight decline on the hill. So they're holding him, and they're walking downhill, and you just hear shh. And then they straighten it out, and you hear shh. Like when you make a hard left in your car, and you hear a Yeti thermos slide across the back seat. One beat in a rain stick. It's a little South Vietnamese man. They finally get him over the grave, right? They're about to lower him. And then this guy, Mung, he's a cousin, I don't know. He's a monk, though, and he's a geomancer. So he was all obsessed with where the grave would face. So he comes down and he goes, no, his head has to face water. You have to turn it around. So back up the hill they go, ashakunk. And they have to turn fully around, and then come back down the hill, shakunk. And that way, we would get the feng shui of his grave correct, so that he would have positive energy flow as he headed into the afterlife, catfishing people about his height. Like a Hinge profile. That's all photos of 6-foot caskets, So women are like, oh, 6 feet and dead? I don't know what happened next at the burial because it was a South Vietnamese military funeral, so all the Americans left and left them to clean up the mess. But I do know that Vinh, wherever he is up there, smiling, so happy to finally be looking down at us. Listen, we have a wonderful show tonight, and I say that every week.